Okay, what's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another local stream here. Although this week's locals is a bit different because we've got a two-person locals. So I guess there are other things going on in the retro sphere right now. So yeah, it's just gonna be two people, Dump Truck and Clemens, both very, very good locals players. And yeah, we'll just get this party started, I guess. It'll be interesting. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So Dump Truck is hosting now for Clemexon's 12, and we'll be diving into that. Chimeratech format, very fun format. One of the more sort of popular of the ones that I've shown off on the channel. But I guess there's a bunch of other stuff going on. So we just have one match here. I'll mute these sounds so you don't have to worry about that. And hopefully this game is good enough to show why people like this format. It could be bad, but you know, that's Yu-Gi-Oh! Either going to be a good game or a bad game. We'll have to see how it goes. Comfy is in this format. That's going to be something that not many people like. But it is a card to, you know, play around, play with. So it's important to know about at least. But this is sort of like if you played Reaper format, you're familiar with Comfy. And it's also here. I don't know why they kept the hand rips legal for so long, but they did. So it's something to know about. But that's going to rip a Book of Moon out of the hand. Very interesting stuff. It seems like Clemens has DD Assailant, Blowback Dragon, Heavy Storm, and Trap Dust Shoot. So interesting sort of layout of cards. Oh, speaking of Dust Shoot, here's another Dust Shoot. Dust Shoot is at 3 in this format. Great stuff, right? Don't we love Dust Shoot? Dust Shoot's my least favorite card in the game, probably. Yeah, it's just my least favorite card in the game. Big claim. Oh, double Dust Shoot. You love to see it. Ain't that great? Ain't that great, folks? It is still a fun format, though. It's just like, woof. That was a lot there. So, Comfy, Dust Shoot, Dust Shoot. So, you know, both players are 3 cards now, but Dump Truck has been able to sculpt Clemenson's hand here so well. So, yeah, this is a bit rough here. Magician of Faith flipping up a Comfy. Comfy ripping another card out. Now, I will say, Dump Truck down to 6,000 life points. So, they have been falling a little bit in terms of life points, but they've got so much card advantage that this is just kind of crazy. I'm surprised they took the Book of Moon, honestly, given that the Faith is set. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, leaving them with Dust Shoot and Econ and Heavy, or no, Dust Shoot and Heavy just. So, like, you can play around those very well. Like, you're never going to get to 4 cards in hand here. Dust Shoot will never matter. And they're going to tribute out a Cyber Dragon as well, attacking for 35. So they are firmly in the driver's seat here, passing back to Clemens. I mean, Clemens just not having a good time. Honestly, I maybe would have set the Dust Shoot or something. Okay, they're setting 3 here, so probably a Dust Shoot and a Heavy. Last card in hand is probably a Tribute Monster, maybe. We'll have to see what happens, but yeah, that's the end of Game 1. So, not the best showing for the format in Game 1, but most games are not like that. It's just kind of an unfortunate thing that can happen sometimes. But yeah, Dust Shoot definitely a brutal card if it does get resolved. And we saw it get resolved multiple times there. And Dust Shoot was a brick for Clemens as well, which is another reason why I don't like the card. I don't really like cards that are kind of modal, where like they're either the best card in the world or the worst card in the world. And I think Dust Shoot really fits into that philosophy very well. So, not my favorite thing in the world to see. But anyways, we're going into Game 2 here. And who will win this one? Will Clemens bring it to a Game 3? Will they not? Graceful also in this format. We're going to see a lot of interesting cards here. We're not really getting to see the strategies in the format, but I do think that Chimeratech does show off the best of the GX era. It's sort of like the most typical GX format. Like, GOAT is technically GX, so if you're looking for one format from each time period, like, you could pick up GOAT as the GX format. But I feel like, honestly, labeling them by anime errors can be a bit flawed. Yes, the anime errors do often, you know, sort of correspond to summoning mechanics, which is one reason why you'd want to be tempted to do that. And also the anime, very iconic. But I do feel like, you know, okay, a third spy there. But this means that Dump Truck has at least 1 spy in hand for sure. You don't just play 1 spy. But I do feel like, you know, before the 5Ds era, labeling them by anime formats is not really as helpful as, you know, it will be later on. I also feel like after the Link era begins, you know, labeling by anime formats also did not help. Because by that point, the anime, after Vrain, shifts to Rush Tools, right? So, like, you know, you can basically say, like, okay, this period of time has this general overarching design philosophy, but I feel like overall, okay, Dust Shoot coming down from Clemens here, getting their revenge. But I do feel like, you know, sort of before the starting mechanics become to define the animes, it doesn't really work. So, but yeah, I do feel like this does capture the time period that people think of as GX better than pretty much any other GX format. Because I think Goat sort of captures the DM feel very nicely. Even though I will say, if we're talking about like pure, like unadulterated DM, I think the Yada format might have it beat in terms of, the one that I go to for that, because you get to play with the powerful iconic cards that were legal throughout much of the DM era. But Goat is definitely an all-timer for sure. Strike Ninja coming down, so it seems like Clemens is on a Strike Ninja style deck. They're going to go for a knock on the set, which is a Treeborn Frog, so very good hit there. Very, very powerful in decks like Monarch decks and stuff. But yeah, going to attack in with that Strike Ninja. So yes, I wanted to play this locals with something I cooked up, but I assume we're not going to have another one for a while. I might have another Chimeratech next week, since this one did not really fire. So if you can show up for that one, then that would be pretty good. But yeah, so I'll probably have one next week. Strike Ninja is going to banish 2 and let the Sidra come in to attack. And now Strike Ninja is going to return here, which is a bit worrying for Dumbstruck, I feel like. I think this means that Clemens has a pretty good monster in hand that they want to be using. Oh, or they got returned. That also works. You're going to half their life points to bring out a Zamira, a Sangan, and double Spy here. So the knock actually worked out pretty well for Clemens. They're filling up their banish zone. Wind decks are cool. I think so. I played a wind deck in Reaper, and part of the reason why that was so good is because there's a lot of things you can do with the engine, with triggering Last Will so much, because that gets you into Cyberstein, which is like a WinCon and Reaper. It gets you into a lot of like just broken stuff. But I feel like in this format, it's not quite as good, because you just there's nothing to really pay off for, right? Like, you can get some board presence and stuff, you can get some card advantage, but I feel like it doesn't do that as well as other decks in the format do. Sasuke's Samurai number 4 is an annoying card, to be sure, but I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I don't know. It could be something that does work. I don't quite know, but it's not my favorite thing. Anyways, Comfy coming down, ripping a card out of the hand. Kind of interesting to do that now as opposed to later, but I guess they're probably trying to decide, what do I set here? And Warriorly is definitely something very good to hit out of the hand there. But Clemens is going for blood, attacking into Tomato. So pretty good set for Dumbstruck that does keep them alive here. If they've got more tomatoes, that is. Let's see. Yeah, that's the first tomato gone. So you probably get into another tomato, I assume. Oh, a Dekoichi coming down. Interesting. Do they not play more than one tomato? That might be it. But yeah, either way, that's going to be 300 plus 1400, so that's going to drop down quite a bit. And there are 2 Darks Engraved, so they've got that for Strike Ninja there. And yeah, that's going to be it for game 2. So a bit more back and forth there. I think Clemens was kind of in the driver's seat that whole game, but it was definitely a lot more interesting than game 1. But yeah, it seems like Dumbstruck is on a Monarch deck. We see that Clemens, mentioned that they got some Borgs in there. And it seems like Clemens is on the Strike Ninja return deck, which is very, very cool as well. And both those decks probably familiar to people who played Reaper format. And there are a lot of Reaper format decks that you can play here, but there's no Cyberstein. So that means that they're less broken. Because I do think that one of the things that really broke a lot of the decks in Reaper format was the existence of Cyberstein, just giving them an instant win button. And that's what allowed things like Wind to potentially compete, because Wind didn't really have many payoffs. Yes, you could go into a Nephthys with Hand of Nephthys, but it wasn't quite the same as here. And also, I will say in that format, they had 3 Last Wills. So, that made Wind a little bit better there, but I don't think it's necessarily the best here. Still would be cool to see, though. I'm not going to try and discourage people from playing a deck. I just think it's good to acknowledge, just look at, play it realistically, right? If you are playing a deck that is underpowered, it's a bit less frustrating when you lose with it, and a bit more satisfying when you win with it. And some people like that, but I find that a lot of people who play around with less competitive decks can often just sort of get very frustrated when they play that, because they're like, why aren't I winning with this deck, right? And I feel like that's just not a good attitude to have. It will make them not really like the game. And it's also just not realistic, because you're sort of doing it to yourself to a degree there, because you're playing a deck that you know is not the most powerful thing in the world. And so it's just not it's not healthy, I think, for people to do that. But BrainCon into a Monarch here is going to be pretty good. But it looks like they're going to poke in with the Breaker first in case there's a Battle Trap. Looks like that will indeed connect, and then they're going to tribute that for a Mobius to pop that back row. Chaining Ring, very, very good chain there. So yeah, that'll drop both players down by 2,400. And yeah, it's getting down to the wire here. Both players at half or less. So that's pretty good there. And it looks like Clement's just going to set one, play a bit safe, set another. And are they going to set another into a potential Mobius? They can probably have to read that there's no Sidra, because otherwise you'd probably do the Sidra first and just try and get over here that way. But it looks like there is a call, so that will get a tribute material out on board if there is another Mobius there. Or if they've got a Zaborg, if the Zaborg will also work there. MST on the back row, it's going to hit a Saku, so very good MST there. A Zaborg would be great here. But it looks like they don't have Zaborg. They're just going to attack in with the Mobius into a Dekoichi, drawing Clemens a card here. And then Dumptrick going to set one and set another and pass back. So pretty good board for Dumptrick. If Clemens instead of a Heavy Storm, that's going to be a bit brutal because you lose the Mobius and the back row. But it looks like Clemens just going to set one, set two, pass back. We know that Dumptrick, or we can figure that Dumptrick did not have a Zaborg last turn. Unfortunately, now they do have a Knock. So Knock will banish that Spy, banish some more Spies as well, probably. There's another Spy, and there's a third Spy as well. And now Dumptrick can potentially get in for a lot of damage here. I have the read that the set is probably not a Spy, because otherwise you flip the Spy first and then go for Knock. But it looks like they're just going to attack in with the Mobster there. Get in, drop Clemens down to 1,600. Dumptrick has not used up a ring of their own, so they can potentially use that to close out the game. Of course, if you do that to close out the game, you want to wait for your opponent to try and do something. Because you don't want them to have like Book of Moon or something to then kill the Mobius or flip down the Mobius to prevent them from getting killed. But yeah, looks like return is going to come down here. I think that's kind of a desperate return, but you kind of have to do it. And it looks like they're going to tribute 2 for a DMOC. Oh, DMOC is pretty interesting here. What do you get back? I mean, it's just Graceful. Yeah, that's the one spell you got. But DMOC is going to be pretty good there. Graceful, very, very good card, obviously. And Rhoda is going to come down as well. Just thin out the deck a little bit more. You don't necessarily want to draw your Warriors right now. But they are at 800 life points, which is a bit low. It shuts off things like BrainCon, shuts off things like Premat. So that is something to consider. Drawing 3, pitching 2. Pitching a Dushoot, which is giga dead here. And what else are they pitching? They're thinking about this. They don't have an obvious choice like BrainCon or Premat or something like that in hand. They don't have Comfy in hand either. Going to pitch a TT. Very interesting stuff there. So this means they probably expect... Well, I mean, it could mean a couple things. They might not expect their monster to stick around, but it could be that they don't think the Dumpster is going to summon another monster into a TT. So it's kind of the least valuable card there. Word Lady is going to come down, but oh no, it can't come down because the DMOC was the normal summon there. So very good point. And yeah, what's going to happen here? Is Clemens going to attack into a potential Mirror Force of Saku? Looks like they are. Going to poke in to that Mobster. And will the backer be something? It will be Book. Okay, Book on the DMOC there. So that means that Dumptrick might have a Knock. Could mean that, you know, they've got a monster that can get over 2,600 defense. Could mean a variety of things. But Clemens going to set 2, pass back. Now Dumptrick's going to draw for turn. Do they have that Knock? And flip up. Well, Moth will get them the Knock, so they get the Knock there. Knock can be used on the DMOC here. And will that go through? It looks like it will. So DMOC is gone. Get it out of here. Is this going to be lethal? It looks like Mirror Force is going to come down, so that's going to deal with the Mobster and the Magician of Faith there. And now main 2, does Dumptrick have another monster? It looks like they do. They're going to set that, pass back. So Clemens does have another return. Return's going to be really good here. Does drop him down to 400, but they've got the DMOC, they've got the Spy, and they get back Graceful here. Dumptrick did admitting defeat there. I don't necessarily think that is enough to admit defeat, but I mean, I guess you go Rhoda for... No, Rhoda for Exiled is lethal. So yeah, actually that's just lethal that way. So yeah, very good stuff. Yeah, they have DD Ward Lady, although that's a bit worrying into a potential Spy, but you can have the read that they don't have Spy. But anyways, great stuff there. Great game. So we got to see Strike Ninja win against the Monarch deck. Very cool stuff there. congrats to Clemens for winning this locals. It was very hard fought locals for sure. They had to go through a fair bit of the bracket, but ultimately at the end of the day, they managed to win. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. I'm just gonna let the replay show because I feel like there's a bit of a lacking in content locals because it's only been like 15 minutes. But I feel like we can sort of let the replay go, sort of analyze it a little bit. I think the dump truck's making some great plays here. They're sort of controlling the board very, very well. And it seems like Clemens did draw that DMOC, which is obviously a bit unfortunate here. And now they're just going to set 3. If they got heavy, they've got heavy. You lose either way. And it looks like, yeah, there wasn't really much you could do there. Yeah, not really much that could be done. But graceful start, great opening. Upstart as well, drawing more. Knock on these spies, so that's going to get that out of the deck. And you get valuable information about dump truck's deck by that knock there, so that's also very nice and can inform later plays. Sangan Crash is very interesting. I think dump truck searches first on Sangan, I believe. So maybe incorrect ordering there. But either way, it was fine for Clemens because they got the dust shoot, so it doesn't really matter. Knock on the Frog and then Strike Ninja in for 17. I think this is good. Establish that. You banish the Strike Ninja to both fuel the return and also, to give you fodder for Jinzo if you want to just tribute that next turn. But they are going to go for the return there, tribute the Sangan for the Jinzo to get that DD Warrior Lady there. Crash the Mire to get another Dark and Gray for your Strike Ninja again. And now you can attack over that Dekoichi. Maybe they had to read it was the Spy. But either way here, you attack with Jinzo because you're in a very commanding position at this point. Setting the return is a bit risky because if they don't clear the Jinzo, they just pop it, right? You can't chain it. But I think you probably do that just in case. But yeah, attacking over the Tomato, getting out of Dekoichi here. And I guess Dumbrick only plays 1 Tomato because otherwise you would just get out Tomato. But yeah, that Dust Tornado is not going to do it. And that's going to be the end of the game. Going on to game 3, let's see this one. I'm very curious to see what both players had and what they're going to do. Breaker coming down. I think this is smart to do this first. You don't necessarily want to go graceful first because you've got a way to deal with the set. And now after that's happened, then you can sort of, draw 3, pitch 2. Go to a ring there. BrainCon on the Breaker tribute for a Mobster. Mobster gets ringed. I think that's also a very good play there. Very good saving things to play around Mobius because, this is a Monarch deck. They know it's a Monarch deck. So you don't want to play into a Mobius here. And that's going to clear that board quite nicely. Clemens setting a Spy, but that just fueled the return. So they're probably not too upset about that, right? They wouldn't really be too that upset either way there, I think, because they do have the Rhoda to then search a Strike Ninja, try and attack over the set, and then, banish some things for the return there. But this also works out very well because they can go for the Graceful, then the Rhoda to thin out their deck, draw 3, pitch 2. Again, Dust Shoot Torrential, not really the best there for them. And then the Book, because you get back the knock the DMOC, and that'll be the end of the game. Or not the end of the game because they're Mirror Force. And now they're going to set the Tomato. They're going to go for the return. And, I feel like you let this play out a little bit more just to see what they do, because there are some ways that they can misplay. There also are worlds in which, if they just get that Graceful and they draw 3, pitch 2, they might not have the DD Warley or the Exiled, right? So there is a world in which they don't do that, but Clemens is a very good player, so they probably would have won either way. And also they had the Warrior Lady in hand, so you can summon that out, attack in. Yes, there's a risk that it's like a Spy or something with enough defense to wall that off, but given that Dumbrick only played 2 Spies last game, they probably are also only on 2 now, and also the knock went through, so it's very unlikely that's a Spy and kills you. So Warrior Lady is probably the best choice overall, and that would be the end of the game there. So very good stuff from both players. I hope that you all enjoyed this sort of exhibition match of a game. Next week, we'll probably have a bit bigger locals. Just today, I guess, things were very busy. So hopefully next week is a bit less busy. But I'll also be having a, sort of cat tournament run I'm going to release pretty soon, going over the main cat deck. And that should be a lot of fun. So I haven't made one of those videos in a while. Unfortunately, I've been very busy. But there should be a bit of a lull coming up. A bit less busy for me. Hopefully. I've thought that before, but it hadn't always worked out that way. But hopefully I'll be able to make some more videos on cat format and beyond. So I hope you enjoyed as always. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. And also head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server, link in the description below, but where you can play games in these formats for yourself. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed as always. Until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero. Signing off. Peace.